Welcome into CyHawk Talk here on a Wednesday, talking all things Iowa versus Penn State and Iowa State versus the bye week. Can the Cyclones defeat the vaunted bye week? Just kidding. Ben's going to give us the scoop on men's basketball and exciting season as the Cyclones look to be another top team in college basketball for the third straight year here. So a lot to talk about. Ben, how are you enjoying the beginning of crossover season? I know you got a big day tomorrow on Thursday.
Yeah, well, I'll say I checked the line in the bye week's minus 120. So we'll see, man. Maybe the Cyclones lose three in a row. I kid, Cyclone fans. Your bye week will get better. It's okay. The Cyclones lost two in a row last year, and they were just fine. Rocco Becht, he was pissed off. You could tell. I think that's a good thing. He cares. The Cyclone team is going to get back in the lab, and I think they'll give the rest of their season their best shot. But yeah, man. In the meantime, Ethan, we're talking some hoops as we will on CyHawk Talk. We're meeting with TJ Otzelberger in the morning tomorrow. The Iowa State women have their media day in the afternoon. And on Friday, I'm headed to Creighton to watch Iowa State play in a not so super secret scrimmage against the Blue Jays. So looking forward to that top 25 matchup. Just a fun time of year to be doing it.
Real quick tangent here. I stayed with my older brother and got to hang out with my niece and nephew, 3 years old and just over a year old. And you said pissed off in what you were just saying right there. I used the word pissed off at the dinner table and was chided. That was not child friendly language. Are you with my brother on that one, or was I all right to use the PO at the dinner table?
I'm with your brother. We're recording late on a long Wednesday. I That's a little bit of a slip, but I thought Ethan can handle it. You're much older than a little 1 year old around the dinner table. Sorry, mom. Mom listens to CyHawk Talk too, so she won't like it either.
Sorry, Mrs. Hutchins. If you agree with my brother and Ben, let us know in the comments. Email me at ethan.petrick@wcfcourier.com to let me know if I was in the wrong and I need to atone for my great sins. But let's go ahead and get into that men's basketball talk a little bit. Can you take me through kind of what your number one things are going into the season? I know you got a couple of fresh faces, exciting faces in Ames. So what's your number one topic going into the season?
It's going to be these freshmen. Ethan, last year, Iowa State had one freshman on the roster, and he didn't play a whole lot. So this year, it's a completely, I think, new tone where Iowa State's going to be in positions where it needs to depend on young freshmen. It starts at point guard with Killyan Toure. He's going to probably be the primary backup all season, and right now he's the starter as Tamin Lipsey continues to come back from a knee injury. Looks like Lipsey's going to be back around the start of the season, but we're going to get a good look at Killyan Toure running point, the freshman from Brewster Academy, who's originally from France. Super excited to see him. He's raw. He's a defensive, effort, energy guy. That's going to be what gets him on the floor. He's a lot like Lipsey in that respect. But I'm curious to see what he looks like on the offensive end on Friday in Omaha. What kind of shooting ability does he have? What kind of flow of the offense? What kind of command does he have? Is Iowa State able to generate consistent good looks with Torre running point? That's going to be kind of the first thing I'm looking at on Friday.
You also got here on the show sheet a little bit of shooting and how deep that Milan Momcilovic can hit a 3-pointer from. Makes me think of Caitlin Clark since I'm an Iowa homer. Take me through what you can tell us about his range.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if he gets to Clark range. TJ Otzelberger, has said the scouting reports out on Milan Momcilovic. He's not going to get any more open threes in the corner. Teams know don't let Tamin Lipsey in the paint and don't let Milan Momcilovic have an open three. So the 3-point looks he's going to have this season are going to be deeper. They're going to be, more forced. They're not going to be as catch and shoot. And I'm curious to see how much of this shot hunting, that's the verb that Otzelberger has used so much. He wants Milan to be hunting shots. How much of the free reins does a guy like Milan get and feel confident shooting? Maybe he gets to Curtis Jones range. I think that would be the analogy that Cyclone fans would rather hear than about Caitlin Clark. I mean, Curtis Jones, he was pulling from anywhere. I think of that KU game last year. So maybe Milan gets into some of that Curtis Jones range. I wonder if he shoots a logo. If there's any time to let a logo three fly, Ethan, it's in an exhibition. Who cares?
One thing I can say for certain is I hope that Mommy shoots better than the first two games of this NLCS have gone for his Brewers. I really appreciated the tweet from the Iowa State men's basketball account when he was taking over as the admin. But unfortunately, our Brewers haven't really gotten it done there to get going in the NLCS. Wrap us up here. Put a bow on the men's basketball discussion. What's your number three topic?
Sure. I mean, again, these freshmen are just the most fascinating thing with this Iowa State team right now. And the player that we've heard maybe the most about, or who has generated the most, talk from an offensive standpoint, is Jamarion Batemon. This guard, this freshman guard, has been awesome by all reports and everything I've been hearing. And I think he's going to be a consistent piece in the Iowa State offense. I want to see how Bateman looks out there. And the thing about these freshmen is if you earn TJ Otzelberger's trust, you're out there. If you don't, he doesn't throw you out there. I mean, we saw Cade Kelderman, the walk-on, out there last year in the NCAA tournament because he was the guy that earned the trust rather than Noyes and Drusitis, the highly promised freshman. If you're not earning Otzelberger's trust, you won't see the floor. So I'm curious, when it's October 17th, how much trust has Bateman earned? I think it says a lot if they let him go out there and play 30 minutes and put up a bunch of shots and be a consistent part of the offense. And it also might tell us something if he's out there for 10. So I'm really curious to see what kind of offensive burden they allow Bateman to take on.
Jamarion Bateman might be the offensive weapon that Iowa fans are hearing a lot about from Ames in the future. One offensive weapon on the gridiron that the Hawkeyes have heard plenty about is Devonte Ross, wide receiver for Troy. Last year, tore up the Hawkeyes for more than 140 yards, two touchdowns, and a punt return score. He's now at Penn State, so the Hawkeyes get to see him again this weekend. And as we transition to talking a little bit about the Iowa Hawkeyes and their home matchup against Penn State on Saturday, I think that's going to be one of the number one topics we're looking at this weekend because it's their second chance with not the exact same secondary, but the same corners. TJ Hall, Deshaun Lee, both back. Jamari Harris was obviously there last year, but it's their second chance to try and right some wrongs about the way Ross was able to tear them up last year. And honestly, put a couple of doubts in the minds of Hawkeye faithful about who that defense could be last year. Kirk Ferentz, ever the jokester, ever the comedian on Tuesday, said, this year we're just hoping to get a hand on him. Last year we didn't even touch him, and he was just able to kind of maneuver his way downfield with his blazing speed and score a couple touchdowns. This Saturday we're hoping to get a hand on him. I think that he's certainly going to be at the top of that scouting report. And I don't think if Iowa's defense does anything, it's going to be to make sure that Devonte Ross does not beat them like he did last year.
Yeah, I've gotten a sneak peek at your headlines, and I won't spoil it, but I do really like your headline revolving that point. Someone who was also on that sideline in that game last year that the Hawkeyes don't necessarily have to worry about for better or for worse is Coach James Franklin. I wonder what he does on his first Saturday off in a long time. I'd imagine he's on a boat in a deer stand, something far away from a gridiron.
How
What are you
how
expecting?
would you celebrate your first autumn Saturday off with $50 million sitting in your bank account? That's that. I'll turn that around on you before I get into my number two topic here.
Oh, that's an easy one for me. I'd be on the golf course.
What golf course? You could golf anywhere in the world.
Maybe a little Pine Valley or Augusta National. I mean, I guess that takes a little bit more than $49 million to go get on those places. Maybe I'd go out to the Harvester, the nicest golf course in Iowa.
Well, number two thing I'm looking at, as you mentioned, James Franklin fired on Sunday after the third straight loss for Penn State. It's interesting. Last two opponents for Iowa have both come into their game against the Hawkeyes losers of their last three. Wisconsin obviously dropped matchups against Alabama, Michigan, and Maryland before the Hawkeyes beat them 37-0. Penn State in a similar state of disarray after three straight losses. Oregon, UCLA, and Northwestern. Two of those not as quite as good as the Oregon loss, which they nearly beat the Ducks. So this is clearly a talented roster. And so when you have a talented roster, you look at what UCLA has been able to do under their interim coach, they certainly seem to have gotten a boost. And that's kind of something you hear discussed a little bit once coaching firings start happening in every sports league is, the boost, the interim coach boost or the coach firing boost, where it just seems like teams play a little bit better in those first couple of weeks after a coach gets fired because, and there are theories why it happens. It's like, oh, is the offense just get simplified because the new guy is trying not to, change the world and they're just trying to do things so simple that it's almost, it's just easier because you're not complicating things. I'm not quite sure what the cause of the interim coach boost is. I don't think it's going to get Penn State home this weekend, but I'll be curious to see if they look better than they did against Northwestern last weekend because that looked bad. They were out of sort, out of sync, and so I'll be curious to see if the Nittany Lions can put up a better fight. The other thing to add into this discussion is they are starting a new quarterback, Drew Aller, out for season following an injury last week. So new starting quarterback as well, which I think is going to negate any benefit you get from the interim coach boost.
Yeah, I'd be feeling a lot better this week about your prediction that the Hawkeyes are going to beat two of the three college football playoff teams. That prediction has to be resting a little bit easier after what you've seen, crumble in Happy Valley.
Yeah, I'll bring it up with one of my headlines because it's kind of got a dual meaning. But it's certainly I'm feeling a little bit more confident about one of my predictions. Obviously the other one was that Mark Gronowski was going to throw for 3,000 yards, and it certainly isn't on track for that through 6 games. I should have done the math before the show to figure out how many yards you'd have to throw for through the final 7 games. We'll give him a bowl game through the final 7 games to reach my 3,000 mark. It would have to be something crazy like 500 yards, 400 yards. It's not looking good, and that's the last thing I'm looking for in this Penn State matchup is can this passing game get back on track? You give Gronowski a mulligan for the Wisconsin game coming in off the bum knee. They got a big lead early. You can kind of lean into the run game. Kind of the same story as what happened against UAlbany. Instead of dealing with injury there, he was just a little out of sorts, and they were able to lean on the run game. Same story on Saturday. Ran for 210 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground. Didn't need to throw the ball to beat the Badgers. However, as an Iowa fan, you're kind of getting to the point where it's like, okay, one of these times we're going to have to throw the ball to win the game, right? And certainly would have been nice to have completed one more pass against Indiana. I think you know which one I'm talking about. And so, can this passing game get back on track? As I said, Nittany Lions still a talented roster. So if you're able to go and do it against Penn State, you are still proving something, even though they are losers of their last 3. They're in the bottom of the Big Ten at the moment. It's still a good team. You're still gonna be able to prove something. It's not the same as going and beating up on a UAlbany or a UMass. So go prove it. Throw for more than 72 yards. I think if Gronowski goes out and throws for 200 yards, I think you're feeling really good about the rest of the season. You're feeling good about your chances against Southern Cal. You're feeling good about your chances against Nebraska, against an Oregon. So that's the third thing I'm looking for. I think it's something that you need to see this week. Is like, hey, get this passing game going before we get into some of the harder matchups remaining on the schedule.
Do you think Gronowski will be asked to throw the ball around the yard as much as, it could require after really not being asked to do a whole lot of that against Wisconsin?
I would love to be able to predict things like that, but Tim Lester is so hot hand, and I'm just going to go with whatever's working, whatever's going to be the best path to victory, and so it's so just how the game is going, game script dependent that I can't just come out here and say, I think that they're going to, have Mark throw the ball a ton. So if I were a betting man, I would probably bet the under on whatever the passing yards prop is. Unless it's a ridiculously low number like 70 and a half. Say it's 70 and a half yards, I'm taking the over. If it's 125 yards, I'll probably take the under on that just because I think that's a safe bet with the way Iowa's shown its offense to work best this year.
You heard it here first on CyHawk Talk. Bet the under. Send all complaints to
Not
Ethan Andrew.
gambling advice. Not gambling advice. If you're gambling, you have a problem, call the number. I don't know what it is, but we'll talk about headlines and I'll give more predictions that are also not gambling advice right after this.
And Ames, cornbread. Business management. Favorite thing to do on a basket. Getting my teammates involved with the passing. Favorite all-time player, Kevin Durant. Just want to try something different. I I wanted number 2, but one of my teammates already had it, so I just said, let's go big or go home, so I picked 55.
Welcome back to CyHawk Talk here on a Wednesday, wrapping up the show with some Sunday's headlines today, or in Ben's case, a Saturday's headline today, as he talks a little bit about that secret scrimmage. Ben, I always like to give you the honors of going first. You only got one day, so go ahead and give us that headline.
We get to spill the secrets from a secret scrimmage. Normally, we'd be wondering, how do the freshmen look? These are the new guys. These are the exciting new pieces. The mystery is there. What do Dom Plata, Jamarion Batemon, Killyan Toure, all these guys look like? And we're going to get to see it. Follow us there. My headline for Friday's exhibition against Creighton is going to be freshman faces. Because for better or for worse, we're going to get to see what some of these new faces look like after not needing, to depend on freshmen at all last season. Iowa State is going to have to lean on those guys and the ups and downs that come with bringing 17-year-olds into a grown man sport. So I'm going to have freshman faces as my headline for Friday's exhibition at Creighton.
Go ahead and get into the Iowa's headlines today for a matchup against Penn State. Number one headline, you didn't get Rossed. I mentioned Devonte Ross, now a Nittany Lion, after tearing things up for Troy in its matchup against the Hawkeyes last year. I think that Iowa's going to have a bit better of a time against him this year. I don't think he's going to go for 3 touchdowns quite like he did last year. And so the Hawkeyes are going to avoid getting Rossed yet again. Number 2 headline, not so happy Valley. I did predict already this week on a radio program in Des Moines that Iowa was going to win this game. I think I said the final score was going to be somewhere around 23-20. And I think that the realization for Penn State fans is going to start to set in that we fired a very successful head coach. And, gee, I don't know if there's a better coach out there. So I think that Penn State is going to have to really find gold in this coaching carousel, or there's a high likelihood that they downgrade. And I think that realization's going to start setting in for Penn State fans as they start seeing the names that are circulating for this opening and thinking about what they had and what they're probably going to have next. And then the final headline today is going to be, or the final headline on Sunday will be, so you're telling me there's a chance. Told you this one has a double meaning, or I teased that one of them would have a double meaning. It's this one. I think Iowa's going to get the win. And so someone's telling me that there's a chance that at least one of my bold predictions comes true, because Iowa will improve to 1-1 in matchups against college football playoff contenders from last year, meaning that Oregon game will be the decider on if I'm an idiot and if the brown paper bag has to come back out, or if I was right and they did win 2 of them. And then, so you're telling me that there's a chance. Iowa entered last Saturday with a 0% chance of winning out. As of Monday, that had improved to 0.4%. As of today, that was up to 0.5%. So I think with another win, we might see that tick up again a little bit. Obviously, the Oregon game is the one that's still going to loom large on that, but at least you're telling me there's a chance. That'll do it for CyHawk Talk here on a Wednesday. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on Sunday with a Sunday Rewind show. I'll recap that Iowa football game. Ben will recap the secret scrimmage. He'll be on the ground in Omaha. And we'll have photos from the Omaha World Herald, our sister paper, from that game. So be sure to tune into the Quad City Times, QCtimes.com, for all Ben's coverage and all my coverage. Thanks for watching.